Good morning, fifth and sixth graders. So today we are going to read about um, Jesus dying and being buried. So this is kind of a long passage. It's called Jesus Dies to Save, and it's from Luke chapter 23, verse 26 through 49. So like I said, it's kind of long, but the soldiers led Jesus away, and as they were going, they met a man from Cyrene named Simon, who was coming into the city from the country. They seized him, put the cross on him, and made him carry it behind Jesus. A large crowd of people followed him. Among them were some women who were weeping and wailing for him. Jesus turned to them and said, "Women of Jerusalem, don't cry for me, but for yourselves and your children. For the days are coming when people will say, 'How lucky are the women who never had children, who never bore babies, who never nursed them.' That will be the time when people say to the mountains, 'Fall on us,' and to the hills, 'Hide us.' For if such things as these are done when the wood is green, what will happen when it is dry?" Two other men, both of them criminals, were also led to be put to death with Jesus. When they came to the place called the Skull, they crucified Jesus there, and the two criminals, one on his right, the other on his left. Jesus said, "Forgive them, Father. They know not what they are doing." They divided his clothes among themselves by throwing dice. The people stood there watching while the Jewish leaders made fun of him. "He saved others. Let him save himself, if he is the Messiah whom God has chosen." The soldiers also made fun of him. They came up to him and offered him cheap wine and said, "Save yourself if you are the king of the Jews." Above him were written these words, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals hanging there hurled insults at him. "Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us." The other one, however, rebuked him, saying, "Don't you fear God? You receive the same sentence he did. Ours, however, is only right because we are getting what we deserve for what we did, but he has done no wrong." And he said to Jesus, "Remember me, Jesus, when you come as king." Jesus said to him, "I promise you that today you will be in paradise with me." It was about 12 o'clock when the sun stopped shining and darkness covered the whole country until 3 o'clock, and the curtain hanging in the temple was torn in two. Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Father, in your hands I place my spirit." He said this and died. When the people who had gathered there to watch the spectacle saw what happened, they all went back home, beating their breasts in sorrow. All those who knew Jesus personally, including the women, followed him from Galilee and stood at a distance to watch. All right, so then let's see. Okay, so that's too far. So this is Jesus Dies to Save. So you're going to create an illustration about the first Good Friday. So you're going to draw Simon, who they grabbed from the crowd to carry the cross. And you can see actually in my Bible, there's a picture of him. But so you're going to draw a picture of Simon carrying the cross, the soldiers, the crowds of people, the criminals on either side of Jesus, the darkness. So here I would do the three crosses and the darkness above them and how it fell over the whole country. The temple curtain being torn in two, as it said. Jesus' last breath, and maybe you want to do like a text bubble of him saying, "Father, in your hands I place my spirit." And then what the women and disciples do afterwards. They weep and they go home and get ready for the Passover or for the Sabbath. Okay. So you're kind of drawing almost like a comic because it's the whole thing that happened but in separate boxes, if that makes sense. I also want to share with you this Pray It box in my Bible here. You can see that Jesus, remember me. It goes along with what we just read. And it's about the two criminals. Two criminals were crucified alongside Jesus. One of them insulted Jesus. The other, often referred to as the good thief, respected Jesus and knew he was innocent. He asked to be remembered by Jesus, and Jesus assured him that he would share paradise with him. Take a moment to pray for all those accused of crimes, especially the innocent and those given the death penalty. So I'm going to say this prayer. God, help me always to remember that you love every one of us, no matter what we have done. Your son was given the death penalty, even though he was innocent. I pray for everyone who has been falsely accused and convicted. I also pray for all those who have been sentenced to death. No matter what they have done, they are still your children. Your love knows no bounds. Remind me of that when my heart is too small in judgment. So it's just a nice little prayer. All right, so then we're going to go to the next part. If I can, here we go. Jesus is buried, and so this is a little bit shorter. So this is from Luke chapter 23, verse 50 through 56. There was a man named Joseph from Arimathea, a town in Judea. He was a good and honorable man who was waiting for the kingdom of God, or for the coming of the kingdom of God. Although he was a member of the council, he had not agreed with their decision and action. He went into the presence of Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then he took the body down, wrapped it in a linen sheet, and placed it in a tomb which had been dug out of solid rock and which had never been used. It was Friday, and the Sabbath was about to begin. The woman who had followed Jesus from Galilee went with Joseph and saw the tomb and how Jesus' body was placed in it. Then they went back home and prepared the spices and perfumes for the body. On the Sabbath, they rested as the law commanded. So, going back here then, Jesus is buried. So you're just going to write or draw a summary of Joseph of Arimathea, what he did, how he went with Pilate, what the tomb looked like, and what the women did. So similar kind of thing you can write or draw though. So Joseph, this is not his father Joseph, this is just a Joseph from the town. He was part of the council that commanded Jesus to death, but he didn't agree with it. And so that's why he wanted to take care of Jesus's body in a way that he felt needed to be done and respected. And so he goes to talk to Pilate. And then he takes the body, wraps it in a linen sheet, and puts it in the tomb. And then the women just watch and saw how it was placed. And then they go home to prepare the spices and perfumes for the body. Okay? Have a great day.